It was bad. It was really, really bad. And that day, that incident going through that just burned into my brain like, I couldn't shake it. It was one of those things like, it just kept haunting me for days and weeks and months. Another guy on the team's like, man, I just got a bad feeling. Well, I got to go at that point. I don't tell my wife. She was an RN at Norman, one of my duty guns, and I think I grabbed a bottle of something and I took off walking to the back side of my farm. And I sat down on the pond dam, and I'm not proud of this, but I stuck the rifle, the business end of it, in my mouth. And what I do remember about that is that I'd shot that rifle a lot, and there was a lot of carbon buildup on that.
What's going to be available to them, first responders, and that is so important. But you even talked about possibly at some point in time, getting stuff for families too, and for spouses, and how important that is.
100%. So, without getting into the details of this first phase, and I'm not talking about the restructure, the true implementation of education of this wellness program, and we hope to have it kicked off before the end of the year with this training initiative.
Well, what's up guys? This is Daniel from Arms Family Homestead, and I would say I've been working hard this morning, but it's actually 12:30. I've been on the move since about 7:30 this morning, trying to get everything situated for animals, and had to take a skid steer back to GP Rents and get all that taken care of. But the cows were out of hay and all the animals were out of feed in my bulk feed buggy. Went to the feed mill this morning to fill it up, and apparently they had a fire in one of their grain bins. So basically it was like a corn gluten powder. All that stuff got compacted in there and it got some moisture on it and started to compost, and boom, had a fire in a grain bin. So I wasn't able to get feed there. I had to pack up and drive to another town and get feed there. So no big deal, got it all situated. Got the cows happy again. They were out of hay. These cows are going through quite a bit more hay than my other animals did, I can promise you that for sure. When I set back the hay from our cutting of hay this year, I was thinking about how much I'd need to feed the animals we had, not including these guys. So we'll have to get some more hay before long. But on my drive this morning, I guess I'm going to kind of take this a little bit of a different direction today, and I want to share something with you guys that really never talked a whole lot about, and I don't think it's talked a lot about just in general. But you guys know I share my heart and my emotions and my farm animals and my mistakes and my flops and my failures and successes. So we're not going to talk about the animals. While I was going to the feed mill this morning, I had a notification from a friend wanting me to follow a page on Facebook, and I didn't even look at it because I don't have Facebook on my phone since I got hacked last February. Anyways, it was on the computer, but it was about a podcast. He had started a page. Anyways, it was a podcast, so I thought, well, I'll turn on this podcast while I drive and listen to it. I love listening to podcasts. And this podcast, he was basically being interviewed by some other people on the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. And the guy that they're talking to, his name's Danny Long. Really good friend of mine. Danny actually did my background investigation when I hired on the Highway Patrol. And I'll tell you this, there's nobody in this world that if I was in a gunfight, there's nobody else in this world I'd want there besides Danny Long. In my whole career, I looked up to Danny. He was, for lack of a better term, and I know I don't cuss on this page, this channel, these videos, Danny's a badass. That's just all there is to it. And he's one of those people that, man, when it comes down to getting things done, Danny's your man. And he's been involved in so many things in his career that would destroy most people. And he did a podcast interview because he is transforming into a different role within the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. And Danny has been in multiple shootings. He's shot and had to use lethal force so many times on terrible bad people. But anyways, this podcast interview, I want you guys to listen to it because this really speaks to my heart, to my soul, as to part of the reason I'm no longer a trooper anymore. I'm no longer in law enforcement. And I'm not saying it's completely, I've not gone through a fraction of what Danny has gone through, but it happens to everyone. And it's not just troopers, anybody, any first responder, police officers, troopers, deputies, firemen, medics, I would even say nurses and doctors in the ER, probably even wrecker drivers on the scene of accidents. Well, you go through so much trauma. But one thing about our training in law enforcement, at least I can speak our training with the Oklahoma Highway Patrol and what I went through in our academy, and probably a lot of other training academies for first responders and especially police officers, is they don't do a very good job of teaching you to deal with the aftermath of the mental health side of things afterwards. And in the last few years that I was on the patrol, I was a part of our officer's assistance program, and Danny's kind of taken that over now and changing it completely. But the mental health side of things, the things you go through and you see on a daily basis. I never shot and killed anyone. I was never involved in a shooting, but you see so many horrible, terrible things. And part of our training in our academy was when you go to work, you turn that side on, and when you come home, you turn it off. You got to be able to turn it on, turn it off, and you're a different person at work than you are at home, and you don't bring your dirty, filthy trash that you saw all day home to your wife and children. And so you become this this dual role human, and you have these expectations for yourself, and your department has expectations for you, and your department has expectations for you that are unrealistic at best and detrimental to so many people. In law enforcement, there are so many divorces, there's so many suicides, there's so many alcohol issues and drug issues over time, even after careers are ended. I mean, I know a guy that was a trooper here in my area for 25 plus years. After he retired, he's been arrested multiple times for alcohol related issues. That's a shame. It shouldn't be that way. But I really want to encourage you to listen to this podcast. I'll leave a link in the description box. I called Danny after I listened to there's like two parts to it. After the first part, I called Danny, and like I said, he's a personal friend of mine, and it just breaks my heart. But the stuff he went through, and we all knew about it, and we didn't do a thing. And the struggles are real, but it's not just law enforcement. It's everyone, and you've got to take care of each other. We got to look out for signs and problems and things, because these things that I talked about don't only happen to law enforcement, they happen to everyone. Everyone has struggles, everyone has problems. And I think outside of law enforcement, just as people, we need to do a better job of taking care of each other and watching out for those signs and watching out for those things that are going on in our friends and family's lives that we ignore, or we just don't know what to do with. Sometimes it's not that we don't ignore it. We know there's a problem, we just don't know how to deal with it. But this podcast really shook me up today. Like, it really hit home with me, and it doesn't just apply to people in law enforcement, but I want you to listen to it, because it does give you a little bit of an insight into part of the reason I'm not in law enforcement anymore. I can tell you, I told Danny this morning, I can tell you the exact day that mentally I was done with being a road trooper. I was done with standing out there on the interstate dealing with problems, other people's problems and tragedies. Like the day it happened about 5 o'clock in the morning, it was like 20 degrees outside, and a homeless man had got ran out of a gas station by a local police department and said, "You've got to leave, you can't stay here." So he went to the interstate and started walking and got in a construction zone, and someone at some point hit him with their vehicle, and then he got hit by multiple vehicles in the dark in a one-lane construction zone. I really honestly don't think 99% of the cars that hit this man probably never knew they were hitting a human. But after no telling how long, finally somebody figured out, hey, we need to call this in, because I see clothes and this is bad. So by the time I got there an hour later, it was bad. It was really, really bad. And that day, that incident, going through that, just burned into my brain like, I couldn't shake it. It was one of those things, like, it just kept haunting me for days and weeks and months. And I dealt with many fatality accidents and seen many dead bodies. But this one, it was just like, my cup is full, I'm sick of this. And I was a trooper for a long time after that. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't like I walked away that day, but it just speaks to what Danny was talking about in his podcast of, we have to address these things, we have to deal with these things after the fact. Now, I feel like I've done a pretty good job of decompressing and talking with my family and talking with my wife and all that over the years, but some guys don't. Some guys never open up. And it's bad. It's a bad situation. It can lead to so many bad, terrible things. And quite honestly, that's probably a huge reason there's a large mass exodus from law enforcement right now. It's scary. It's sickening, but it is what it is. So I'm honestly not asking anything from you guys. If you go listen to this podcast, it's not about donations, it's not about money, it's not about anything, but it's just heart-wrenching listening to somebody that I truly looked up to and probably knew he had some struggles and knew he had family issues, had no clue what was going on deep down inside this person that was like superhuman, like been through everything, but deep down inside it was eating him alive, and literally came to a point where he was going to end his life. A man that doesn't happen to. That didn't happen to this kind of guy. He was sitting on a pond dam with a rifle barrel in his mouth for hours. And it's scary. It's real, it's scary. But Danny now is starting this whole new program, revamping the whole program, and it's not just going to include Oklahoma troopers. It's like basically for all first responders across our state. It's a long, probably 7-year plan. I don't know where it'll go, but I'm happy for him. I'm excited for him. I'm happy for all first responders across the state of Oklahoma. It's going to open up so many new possibilities and things that could truly save lives, and I'm excited for that. I hope to get to follow in the process. I have nothing to do with it. Like I said, I'm outside of the highway patrol now. I'm way out of the loop, and I don't plan on going back. I'm incredibly happy and blessed to be where I'm at, doing what I'm doing, basically micro farming for a living with micro animals and goofy animals and mini donkeys and 7 ducks. And I know what it's like to open up on camera and on video, and I know that it's helped so many people. And seeing Danny, or well, listening to Danny's podcast, knowing that was hard for that man. That's not what he does. He is not the person that opens up and talks about his feelings, but he did it, and it helped him, and it's going to save lives. It might have saved his life, might have saved his marriage, but it's going to save so many other people. So anyways, please check the link in the description box. Go listen to this podcast. I'm telling you, he talks about all of these shootings, these fatal shootings. He lays them all out. What happened, how they happened, what caused, well, maybe not what caused them, but it's crazy. It's crazy. And it'll just give you just a little bitty peek into another side of me and what I used to be a part of and what I used to do. Not that I was in the shootings. I'm not comparing myself to Danny. That man is a legend in the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. But anyways, guys, go check it out, please. It'll shake your heart. Trust me, it will. So anyways, guys, I'm gonna take care of the animals, get the rest of my stuff done. It's getting warm. It was like 50 degrees when I came outside this morning. It's about 70 now, so it's time to lose the hoodie. And cows are happy. The rest of the animals are just wanting their feed, and the donkeys are wanting their treats. So anyways, guys, that's all I've got for today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Y'all have a great day, and as always, we'll see you on the next video.